Okay, it's me again. I'm not going to turn on the video because you know what I look like, and that's not what we're doing today. Let me get my screen shared and we will get this show on the road. Okay. So what I'm going to do is work the Word Module 1 tutorial assignment. It says session 1.1. If you're looking at the chapter, remember there are chapter scans in here. You've already watched the, scroll up. Oh, it's someplace else. You've already watched the Module 2 overview video, and we are entering this assignment with the assumption that you have read the chapter. You need to read the chapter. I expect you to read the chapters, the modules, before you begin the assignments. Okay, that's the easiest way to do it. That's the best way to do it. And so that's how I'm always going to make videos, with the expectation that you have read the chapter. I repeated that more than once because it's very important. Okay, so you read this information here. It starts on this page. It goes to this page. I broke them up. The yellow boxes, you've looked at all this stuff. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to work the assignment. All right, we're at 25 points. There's the starting file. Let's open her up and get started. Okay, here we go. So if I look at the book says on page 2, you do stuff, and on page 5, I'm on page Word 1-5. I'm in Word Module 1, page 5. It says touch and mouse mode. I don't have touch mode here. 6 tells us stuff. 7 tells us stuff. 7 tells us something very, very important. That button right there. See that button right there? You want to always turn that on before you begin an assignment in Microsoft Word. I grade for formatting. This is not a typing class. Everybody can type. Even if you type with just one finger, everybody can type. This is not a typing class. I check formatting. We format documents, whether it is a spreadsheet, an Excel, or a Word document. We format them so that, first off, it looks pretty, but more importantly, so that it's easy to find information. Okay, so I grade formatting marks. Make sure you turn on that show hide button. I also call it the paragraph button because, you know, I'm kind of older than you all are. There we go. Here we go. Page 7 tells us that. Page 8 says to save it as that. Well, that file name is just garbage. So I am going to save it to my downloads folder. I'm putting it in my downloads folder. What is this? There we go, my downloads folder. And I'm just going to call it letter. Because the book says this NP_WD, I don't know what that is, and I don't really care. It's the letter file. Don't put your name after it. You already know why, because I said that in the This Is Me assignment. All right. So we look at page 9. That's what it's going to look like when we're finished, minus the stationery at the top, because, you know, you order all this stationery as a business and you type your stuff and you print it on stationery. Over on page 10, it tells you stuff. Now, if you work it in the book, it has you type it. It says you type this, and this is why it does that. And then you type this, and this is why it does that. Autocomplete's pretty awesome. Autocorrect is even better, unless it, you know, autocorrects poorly. Again, we're starting this assignment with the expectation that you have read this chapter and that you know the content of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work the assignment. So let's go top down. Somewhere in here it tells us we need to change the margin. I'm going to zoom out. The book will say, hey, zoom into 60%, or hey, zoom out to 120%. Hey, it doesn't matter where you zoom it out to. That's up to you. So you can click the zoom out. You can also hold your control key and zoom out with the scrolly thing on your mouse, like this. So I'm going to zoom out just a bit for a minute. There we go. Let's change the top margin to 2.5. Now let's look at the word window real quick. This is where we are. This is where we are. You have tabs across the top. You have home and insert and design and layout and stuff. Home is where you'll do most of your stuff. So let's look here inside the home. This is your ribbon. This is your ribbon. Yours is not going to look like mine, but it'll look kind of like mine. If you're on a Mac, yours is a little bit different. You have virtually all the options that we have. They're just in different places. There's a couple of options you don't have, and I don't really remember what they are. But when you just don't have an option, I'll know it. Leave a comment, and it's okay. All right. Chromebooks, you're using the online version of Word, and yes, you're going to be very unhappy that you have a Chromebook. I'm sorry. You can complete the class, but you're not going to have the functions that we do. So again, I'm making this video from a Microsoft Windows computer. Okay. All right. Inside your ribbon, you have this part, and you have this part, and you have the other parts. You have lines in between the parts. See the lines? And then you have words. These are groups. These are groups. This is the clipboard group. We're in the Home tab. This is the clipboard group. This is the font group and the paragraph group, the styles group, and so on. Let's go to the Insert tab. You have more groups. There's your Pages group, your Tables, which is just one, but it's still a group. You have your Illustrations group, where your shapes are, and you have different things over here. Design doesn't have many groups. It has a document formatting, which has all this stuff, and then you have a page background. One more tab. Let's go to the Layout group. Page Setup. Do you see that? There's a Paragraph group. Do you see the Paragraph group? We're in the Layout tab. There's our Paragraph group. Let's go back to the Home tab. There's the Paragraph group. They look totally different. However, see at the bottom right of every group you have, that's called a dialog box launcher. It's also known as the More button. So I'm going to click the More button. I'm in the Home tab, looking at the Paragraph group. I'm going to click the More button. Okay, that pops up. Now your dialog boxes are movable, so you can get it out of the way. But let's look at it. We have two tabs. In this first tab, we have a section we never use. You have your indentation, which means scoot stuff in. And you have your spacing, which means the before and the after. See this? There's your tabs. That's what it looks like. See, this is this one. Let's go back to the Layout tab. And this is a different looking paragraph group. Let's look at the More. They're exactly the same thing. They just gave you a different view. So if the book says, hey, click here, and it doesn't look quite right, you may have been in the wrong tab. Okay, there we go. So let's go to the Layout tab. We want to change our top margin. So Layout, here's your margins. You have all kinds of options. You have some presets. Notice that by default, Microsoft Word has a 1-inch margin all around. See the normal? You have some presets, but our 2.5 inch at the top is not here. So we need a custom margin, very bottom. Again, that's a dialog box, so you can move it. All right, right now, this is what we have. It said we need a top margin of 2.5. You can either use the little arrows or you can do the 2.5. And there we go. What that does is it scoots it far enough down you could print it on pre-printed stationery. So there's that one. All right, let me zoom in now. Again, by default, we're talking about by default. I've clicked here and I'm still in the Layout tab. We're looking at the spacing before. By default, Microsoft Word has 8-point spacing after a paragraph symbol. See the paragraph symbol? Okay. In Microsoft Word, a paragraph ends with a paragraph symbol. In writing classes, a paragraph looks like that, 2 or more sentences. But in Microsoft Word, you have 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs, 4, and so on, right? So Microsoft Word has a default spacing after a paragraph symbol of 8 points. if you look at the book on page 9, that's what the finished file looks like. And just from general knowledge, you know that this is not how you space a document. The return address is not supposed to have that extra space. So let's go in and change it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in this line, and I'm going to change the spacing after to 0. See, I'm still in the layout tab. I'm not here, although I could be here. Where I like to go is the layout tab because I can see the spacing box right there. I'm going to change it to 0. Hey, look at there. So let's look at another way to do it. Let's do the undo button twice because it's 8. Okay, that's how I do it. Let's go to the home tab. I'm still using the paragraph more box. See this? So we have a spacing section and there's our 8 points. See that? There's another way to do it as well. I'm still in the home tab. I'm clicked in the line. Notice that I don't have to highlight it. I can just click in the paragraph. There's a button right up here in the paragraph group. See, Word is pretty cool. It knows we forget things. So if we point to something for a second, it will pop up and tell us what it is. That's called a screen tip. So if I point to that button, there's our spacing button, and you can click the arrow beside it, and you can do it this way. I don't ever do it that way, okay? So if I highlight a line, I'm going back over here. I can change the spacing after. I don't need to highlight the line. I can just click in it and remove the spacing, but that applies it to the whole paragraph. All right, so if you click in a paragraph, it changes the whole thing. Let's go on down. I'm looking at page 9. There we go. That looks pretty good so far. It's left aligned. Let me show you what I mean by highlighting the whole thing. If I highlight the whole thing, the whole paragraph, let's go back to the home tab. I can left align it because I've highlighted it. I can left align it. I can center it. I can right align it. Okay. However, let's go back to just normal. However, if I click in a paragraph, just in a paragraph, I can do the same thing because it applies it to the entire paragraph. See that? Okay. All right. So entire letters aligned to the left. It was already there. Complementary close. I already put it there. Let's put us in a couple of blank lines. 1, 2, 3. 2 blank lines is 2 paragraph symbols, right? Let's type his name, David Alzacar. Okay, so the book says that we need to put a manual line break after this. The book explains what a manual line break is. It looks like, not that, it looks like that. Do you see that little arrow? Let me do it again. See that little arrow? You don't see them very often. Those manual line breaks can really mess up your formatting. You see them a lot when you copy and paste information from the internet. So there's our manual line break. Honestly, I'm not going to grade for it. What I want you to do is just remove the line spacing after. So I'm going to go ahead and type it. Directory, look at that, autocomplete. Isn't that really cool? And I'm going to keep on typing. There's autocomplete. I don't want it, or autocorrect. I don't want it to do that. I want my initial to be in lowercase because that is proper letter format. There we go. And it says enclosure. Now let's format it. If we look on page 9, and if we read the directions, I'm going to remove the space after that. And I'm going to remove the space after that. And then I'm going to zoom out. We're going to look how we did. There we go. How's that look? I'm going to also turn off that and save it one more time. So let's look. What we did is we adjusted the top margin. Let's go back to the objectives page. Objectives are what we're learning or what we're practicing. So I'm looking at Word page 1-1 at the session 1.1 objectives. It says create and save a document. We did that. Enter text and correct errors. We did that. Use autocomplete and autocorrect. Well, you read about it. Select text and move the insertion point. The insertion point is where your cursor is. There's your insertion point, right? Undo and redo. You saw me do that. You may not have had to. We adjusted the paragraph spacing. We changed the line spacing. And we changed the margins. We're not doing the create an envelope because ain't nobody does that. That is all there is to this assignment. Save it and go submit it, and I will see you online.